Hi friends, welcome to my channel. Today I will talk about this very interesting book called Maximum City by Suketu Mehta. This book you can see this book. This came out in 2005. It's a thick book. It's a book which at that time uh, got a lot of reviews. It got talked about a lot. In this book, some people loved it. A lot of people loved it. Some people obviously had some negative comments. So I'll tell you about the book and the kind of technique that Suketu Mehta employed, and also I'll give you my views of the book. So this Bombay obviously is a city of dreams, and it's a city which has been written about a lot. It's a subject of many movies. So a lot of people like us, living in Delhi and North India, we know a lot about Bombay through the films also, especially films of late 90s and early 2000s, mainly from Ram Gopal Verma. But there are many other movies. Sudhir Mishra's Dharvi comes to mind, and other movies. So this book, so first about this writer Suketu Mehta, he was born in Bombay. He grew up, he went to school in Bombay, he lived in South Bombay, and then his family shifted to United States sometime in the late 80s. He did his college in US and he started working in US. He worked as a journalist and he aspired to be a writer. And he came back to Bombay in late 90s to write a book on Bombay. The technique that he is employed in the book is called what is called new journalism. It's a technique which some American writers have used from 50s onwards, especially Truman Capote. This technique involves going to a place, uh, meeting people there, observing people there, talking to them, and then reproducing your impressions of that place. So, in this book, what Suketu Mehta does is he looks at Bombay through different filters. So, when we talk about Bombay, what comes to mind often is underworld, right? We have seen movies of underworld, and we know about the underworld because it is pretty much part of headlines of newspapers, especially in the 90s and early 2000s. Then you think of Bombay police. Then you think of migrants who have come from other cities and they are living there. You think of slums. You think of Hindi film industry. You think of people having dreams of making it big, but not often not succeeding. So you look at all those slums, and you also know that Bombay is a city of disparities. There are ultra rich people, there are poor people, and then Bombay is a city of dancing bars. At least it was till legislation came about to ban those bars. But when the book was written in late 90s and early 2000s, dancing bars were a prominent part of Mumbai or Bombay's social life. There's a movie Chandni Bar, which you should see because it covers a lot of ground which is mentioned in the book. So, because of his background, because of his reputation, Suketu Mehta had access to all the people. So, he met with the police commissioner. So, he narrates the story of Bombay police and head of Bombay police. He has used often fictitious names, especially in the case of underworld and in the case of police. So, you have a fictitious person called Ajay, who is the commissioner of police. You look at his life, his concerns, his constraints, his political pulls and pressures. So that is one chapter dedicated to Bombay police. Then there's a chapter dedicated to underworld and contract killings, which were a big part of Bombay in the late um 90s and early 2000s. So he meets with people who are hired killers. He goes into their psyche, he understands them, he talks, he listens to them, and he reports it back in the book. Then one part of the book is devoted to the polarization of Hindus and Muslims in the wake of 1992 riots in Bombay, immediately after the demolition of Babri Masjid, and then the retaliation in March 93 Mumbai blast case, and how it drew a wedge between Muslims and Hindus. So the book goes into detail in that aspect of it. That is some of the best part of the book, looking at the rise of right wing politics. There's an interview with Balasaheb Thackeray, who was a towering figure in Bombay at that time when the book was written. Then there is uh, a detailed section on dancing bars and dancing, the girls are working there. It's a very long chapter. It might have seemed scandalous and eye-opening at that time, but now looking in 2024, looking back at it, it is nothing great. I mean, like the biggest revelation in the book is that the most desired dancing girl in Bombay was actually not a girl, it was a transgender. Now, actually, that's something which is very mainstream now, it's very common, so it's not a shocker anymore. Uh, I personally did not really get too startled by the revelations in that chapter. Then there's a chapter on film industry, Hindi film industry. Because of Suketu Mehta's access to Vidhu Vinod Chopra, he could actually talk to anyone that he wanted to. In fact, Vidhu Vinod Chopra hired Suketu Mehta as a co-writer on the movie he was making, Mission Kashmir. So you get a lot of background information on Mission Kashmir, the different pulls and pressures that come to play in a Hindi film, how a director is often conflicted by uh, some larger forces, political pressures, the mood of the country at that time. So all of those things, and it's kind of nicely written. So Suketu Mehta was one of the co-writers of the movie Mission Kashmir. He talks about Hrithik Roshan, who was at that time almost unknown star, and then how he became a big star during the making of the film because Kaho Na Pyar Hai released, and how he was very sweet, humble young kid, respecting Suketu a lot. There is a story of Sanjay Dutt, which is very interesting because not many people know about the fact that what Sanjay Dutt endured when he was first put behind bars in the 90s under Tada. He was literally treated like a terrorist. He was put in a very small cell, and that's it. There was a one small hole at the top, and whatever you had to do, whether you had to take bath, you had to shit, it was in that small 6 feet or 10 by 10 feet cell. There was no sunlight, nothing. There was no human connection at all. And Sanjay Dutt endured it for many, many months. Till one fine day, he literally broke down and he started banging his head against the wall because there was no there was no human touch, no human connection at all. And imagine from the life of a superstar, you're put in the jail. It was a true Kafka kind of a nightmare. So that this book goes into detail about that, which I think was interesting. Then there is this thing about slums, which I think Suketu Mehta has overdone. Yes, we all know Bombay has got slum, it has got no space, and there are a lot of problems of hygiene that comes because of that. But he kind of, I think, overdoes it. So this might appeal to an audience which probably has not been into Bombay, who has not seen Bombay or not known about Bombay. Also, Suketu Mehta sometimes simplifies things too much, especially for an Indian audience, because if you are writing a book which is for a larger audience, Indians might think, "यार ये तो मुझे पता है. I know this very well. Why are you telling me this?" Some of the stuff is kind of repetitive, I think. So if you ask me, I enjoyed the book because he's got a good writing style. He's a good observer of people. But I found two shortcomings in the book. One is that some chapters just stretch on and on. Also, Suketu Mehta gets very startled or surprised by certain things which are part of Indian life. Like, I mean, if I meet someone, like, and I kind of know that that person is working very hard and he lives in Bombay, I would know that he may not have a great house. I mean, he can't be living in a bungalow, right? But Suketu Mehta gets very startled by these things that a man is living in a small hovel, right? I mean, these are things that we know. Also, thanks to movies, we all know very well about the underworld. We know the foot soldiers of the underworld. We know about mafia. There are just so many movies on mafias, and I must say that Bombay film industry has done a good job of demystifying the mafia. They have looked at all aspects of the mafia, the underworld wars, the big lords, the foot soldiers, the contract killers. It's been done in many movies. So if you are a movie watcher, you probably would find nothing interesting or new in the book. So I mean, my conclusion. If you really want to know about Bombay, I mean, you can read this book. I mean, it's okay. The reason I'm doing this review, by the way, is that Netflix had commissioned a series based on the book, and Anurag Kashyap was working on it. And then I think 2 months back or 3 months back, they pulled the plug on it. Anurag Kashyap was very distraught. So at that time, I had just finished reading the book, and I thought to myself that probably it's a good thing that they have pulled the plug, because it probably would have been quite repetitive. There is nothing new there. I mean, whatever the material is there, it has all been rehashed in movies earlier. I mean, I won't say rehashed, because it's all that we have seen in movies, like, you know. And I think Anurag Kashyap had done a great job with Bombay Velvet. It may have flopped at that time, but I think it's a true classic. So he should take it easy, nothing, not worry too much. It's a decent book, but I don't think it will give you anything great. Also, India has changed in last 24 years, so a lot of stuff seems dated. Like, you know, I mean, Suketu Mehta is impressed by the fact that in one generation people have made money. Now that is something which is very mainstream. Like, that is the India story. So I think, in summing up, I can say that you can read the book for its style, for its certain chapters, which I really loved. But it would be a bit of a drag in other parts. But I think I would not say that don't read the book. You can read it. But there are also other interesting books on Bombay. Depending on what you are seeking, you can read those. I'll be reviewing some more books on Bombay. I have read quite a few in the last 1 year. So yeah, and they are very different from this one. But yeah, I mean, it's a thick book. I enjoyed it, and maybe Netflix might make a documentary. I could be wrong, because it might turn out to be really good. But I found that a lot of stuff in the book was something that I already knew. But having said that, do read the book and form your own opinion. I always say, and thank you very much. Have a nice weekend, and yeah, I hope you liked it.